It is currently about 1 a.m. I am recording here in my little studio, and boy, it has been a crazy day. It's been up and down. Today, if you didn't know, or I guess yesterday at this point, was the day of the update for Season 4 Reloaded, and we got a massive change to a lot of the shotguns. If you look at what changed, holy crap, look at this list. And look, it's a buff. There's a buff to the 410 Ironhide, the Gracey Auto, the 725. All these guns that we wanted buffed are getting buffed. It's like they're listening to the community. It's really awesome to see, but it's up and down, and you'll see why. Now, what I want to do first is go over all these smaller changes that we have with some of the other ones first, like the Origin and the Gallo and stuff like that, and then we'll go over this big long list here, okay? So bear with me. Let's hop into this major update and get stoked, and also get a little scared because there's some crazy stuff that's going to come from this update. So let's just get into it. Okay, so here we are in Excel. I have some little spreadsheet stuff going on here. Hopefully it looks okay. It's not super clean, but it gets the job done. It gets the point across, right? So first off, we have Shotgun Bravo from Cold War, which is the Gallo. We have the max pellet damage increased to 25 up from 24. What that means is essentially max pellet damage means the max damage range. So per pellet, your damage went from 24 to 25. So before it used to be 96 damage a shot roughly. Now it's 100. So since it's 25, multiply that by 4 pellets, you get 100. So that means up close, the Gallo kills now in 3 shots, which is really good. I mean, look at that time to kill. If you have that reinforced heavy barrel, 444 milliseconds is nothing to scoff at. This thing, if you hear it inside a building, run the hell the other way. This is an insane shotgun. I mean, it's always been good, right? But now it's even better. So it's only up close though. So just keep that in mind. Don't push the range too much with this thing. Next up, we have the Gracey Auto, which got the most massive buff, I think, of all of them in terms of just how much has changed. So we see a damage increase in basically all the ranges, right? I won't go over each one, but as you can see, the Gracey Auto now can actually 3-shot kill. Thank God. This is one of the ones that needed it the most. And if you rock that rapid fire barrel on it, your time to kill goes to about 416 milliseconds up close at about 3 meters. That is a nasty time to kill. This thing can shred some people, but it's not the best shotgun just because of the mag size, and if you want to run the like extended mags or 7 or 10 round, it's going to hurt your rate of fire and hurt these values a lot. So honestly, I like running buck and slug and extra pellets and then just going with 5 rounds and using it as a backup. It's a lot of fun. It went from being like kind of really crappy to being slightly viable, but there's other better semi-autos out there in my opinion. Next up, we have the Origin 12. Now the Origin 12 got the same treatment as the Gallo, so now it does a 3-shot kill in its max damage range, and the minimum pellet damage, meaning the farthest damage range, went from 12 to 14. So now it's going to take a little less shots to kill, so that's nice. One thing to notice here though is that if you remember from last update, it used to go from 0 to 7.6. It was a bug, but they did fix that, and so now it goes to where it used to be, which is 4.1 meters. So just keep that in mind. The max damage range is only 4.1 meters now, but you can 3-shot, and since this has a magazine and a really respectable time to kill up close, this is probably one of the better spammy shotguns in my opinion because you can reload so fast. Not as fast as the Gallo in terms of movement speed, but a magazine is all you need really. Then we do have the Streetsweeper. This is one that got a very minor change. I just thought I'd throw it in here. Nothing changed at all except for this last range right here from 14 meters on, where it now deals 10 damage instead of 9 per pellet. So yay, but it's still 8 shots to kill. I mean, let's be honest, you just don't want to be in that range with this thing at all. But technically it is a buff, so I did think I would throw it in there and cover it. It's still a great shotgun. It definitely shreds on rebirth, but just keep in mind, you don't want to push range with this thing. Okay guys, hope you stuck with me, but the time has finally come to talk about these other heavy hitter shotguns and all the craziness that's coming along with this. So if we look, it says that the following shotgun's max pellet damage has been increased by 26%. That is a lot more damage. Now, the thing to note here, and this was something I was confused about, is it says max pellet damage. This means it's only for your initial max damage range. If you start to understand what that kind of implies, this update seems a little weird and also very disappointing because things like the 410 Ironhide still can't 2-shot out to 8 meters. It's gonna have more damage up close in that 2-meter range. The 725, of course, up to 2.5 meters or so, more damage, yay, but that wasn't the problem with these guns. It was that past that, it takes 3 or 4 shots. And so the 725, it still can't two-shot past 2 meters, right? Which means that the 725 with the sawed-off barrel is still the way to go, and basically out past 2 meters, you're not going to be getting two-shot kills with the 725 and the Ironhide. So yeah, that was kind of a bust. I was so excited to see if that changed anything. It didn't. So those guns are still kind of irrelevant, except for the 725, which I'll get into in a second. But for the rest of them, a few things to note. The Einhorn revolving shotgun and the double barrel from Vanguard seem to be completely unchanged. I don't know if this is unintentional. It probably is. There was no buff for these guns. I was thinking that it was actually going to be implemented, but it seems like it isn't. So the double barrel from Vanguard, at least, it's still pretty bad. I mean, the sawed-off version, it can still two-tap, but every other barrel is still going to take at least 3 shots to kill. So nothing special about that. The Einhorn, nothing changed about that.
Next up is the Hauer 77. This one did in fact get a max damage range buff, so now it deals about 240 points of damage. It doesn't seem to be 26% like they said in the stats, because if that was true, this would be able to one-tap someone if they only had 2 plates, but I tried doing that, and they would still have a little bit of health left over. So it's around 240 points of health, which is still better than it was at, what, 204, right? That's a lot more damage, so that's really good. The Hauer's always been kind of a weird shotgun for me, but hey, it is a little bit stronger, so give it a shot. Now, I want to go back to the 725 for a second, because I did talk about how it did get a little bit of a buff, but it was still kind of crappy. Well, the sawed-off barrel does in fact do more damage. If you actually look at how much damage you do, it's close to maybe 160, so instead of just 150, you actually deal a little bit more than that. So it's not a huge difference, but it's noticeable, and it should be a little bit more consistent, and considering you only had to hit 3 pellets to get that damage, that's pretty nice. So this is obviously one of those shotguns that was already kind of good, and now it's just a little bit better. So honestly, I like this one a lot. It's definitely viable for good players. You just have to be good with the reload speed and, you know, being able to manage and maneuver cover. But yeah, 725, at least with the sawed-off barrel, not a bad choice anymore. Then we have the combat shotgun. This was already one of the best shotguns in the game, I think. I don't really think it needed a buff, but it's very welcome because, oh my god, the amount of damage this thing does now up close and personal. If you just have the sawed-off barrel, the 12-gauge ammo type, and vital, you can deal about 290 points of damage. I'm not even kidding. It's close to 300. I didn't measure it super accurately, but you can just tell from this little screenshot I got, it deals an enormous amount of damage. This is the highest damage shotgun in the game still. Yes, more than Dragon's Breath on the other shotguns we'll talk about. It just deals so much damage, and in my opinion, it's probably one of the best shotguns. I don't think it's the best, but I think for good players, this is probably one of those that, yeah, if you like using pump actions, this is probably one of the best ones. Or so I thought, until we'll get into the other two we're going to talk about. But the combat shotgun, crazy strong. You have to give it a shot. I love this thing. It's got a good blend of fire rate and damage. It's not like overbearing. The fire rate isn't as fast as the VLK, but it is better than the Model 680, and the damage is just out of this world. So easily one of my favorite shotguns. Give it a try if you haven't. And now for the two shotguns everybody's probably curious about. We have the Model 680 and the VLK Rogue. These two did in fact also get buffs, and the real thing here is that even with Dragon's Breath, yes, you do more damage up close. So these shotguns that were already really good before the update just got even better, and this is only in their max damage range, just to be clear. Now the thing that's so crazy about this is the amount of damage you do basically went from about 220 to 230 like before the update to now dealing close to 270 points of damage. That is a big jump. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And honestly, it's a bit overbearing with the VLK Rogue, which I'll get into my thoughts on that in a second. But the VLK Rogue is easily probably one of the best shotguns in the game now. I mean, it is. There's no question about it. It's kind of a little arbitrary, I think, but it is one of the best. I can't say it's the best, simply because it is still a pump action, and some people don't really know how to use those very well, so they might die. So you're probably better off with using like the Gallo up close or something like that, because the time to kills are pretty similar. But I mean, even if you have a little bit of knowledge of how to use one of these things, or even if you're just sitting around in a room waiting for someone, the VLK Rogue, you're gonna just demolish people. The way that you can handle people with this thing is just absurd. And to be honest, it's a little overbearing, like I said, but the Model 680, it definitely got a massive buff, and I'm okay with this one because it deals so much more damage now, but it's such a slow fire rate gun. It kind of makes up for it, right? You don't feel like as cheesy as you do with the VLK Rogue, but with the Model 680, this is easily the sharpshooter shotgun. If you want range, kit it out for range and use the Marauder suppressor with that sport barrel, and you'll be amazed at the 2 shots you can get. I was 2-shotting pretty consistently at like, I don't know, 8-10 meters. It's just such a monster of a shotgun, but you have to be really precise with your shot, and of course it's got a very slow fire rate. But yeah, the VLK Rogue and the Model 680 are easily 2 of the best shotguns now, as they were, but now they're even better. So if you want a quick rundown of what the big things that changed were and what things I think you should be looking at, the Gracey Auto is now actually decently viable, so you should give that a shot. I'll be making videos about these individually at some point, but yeah, Gracey Auto actually has a chance to compete now. The Gallo is even scarier up close, and so is the Origin 12. Those are going to be even better than they were, and I still recommend using them because they're really strong. Then we have the 725 sawed-off barrel. That's another good one to use since it is stronger now than ever. And then of course the combat shotgun is top tier. The VLK Rogue is borderline overpowered. It is pretty strong. And then we have the Model 680, which is also really good. The Streetsweeper and the Jag 12 didn't really change really at all. The Jag 12 didn't, but the Streetsweeper got that minor buff, but it's nothing to write home about. It's still a good shotgun, but I think you should be more concerned with these pump actions now, simply because of how much damage they do. Now, as for my thoughts on this update, well, it's been up and down, to be honest with you guys, because I was excited to see it, but when I learned it was just the max damage range, a lot of these buffs were just kind of unnecessary, like almost overkill, almost just kind of irrelevant, because the 725, like the whole issue with that gun was the 2-shot potential is just gone past 2 meters, and I was hoping that would change this, but no, the buff didn't do anything for that gun really at all. The same with the Ironhide. It's a step in the right direction, but I think they missed the mark just a little bit. Now, as for my thoughts on some of the shotguns now that we have, how strong they are, I think that the VLK Rogue is a little overpowered. I'm kind of being that guy. I just have to be honest with you guys. I think it's overshadowing a lot of these other ones just a little bit because of the fire rate. My issue isn't that it can 2-tap up close or that it's that fast. It's that it has pretty dang good range for that fire rate. And really, there's no other reason to use anything else besides that over the other pump actions. You can maybe argue the combat shotgun. I mean, I like the combat shotgun, but to be honest, on paper, it's just so much better than the other ones, the VLK. So I think it needs to be tuned back just a little bit. And one of my issues with this update is it really made these strong guns even stronger, these shotguns. And so people are going to see that and they're going to complain like no other. I can guarantee it. I've already seen it on Twitter. To be honest, the VLK Rogue is something worth complaining about a little bit, but you know how it is, right? People catch on and then it starts getting overused and abused. People cry for nerfs, and what ends up happening is the gun turns into just a shell of what it used to be. So even though the guns are stronger now, I have a feeling, especially the VLK Rogue, it's going to have this thing where it gets nerfed and it turns out worse than it was before. And so that kind of nervous about, because the VLK Rogue has been untouched. It's been basically buffed and never nerfed in its entirety in Warzone. So that might change soon, guys. But as far as the best shotguns and stuff like that, I think that the semi-autos are still probably going to be the best, but the pump actions for a little bit more skilled users, they're definitely going to be a lot more fun and a little bit more usable, only up close though. So you really got to be pushing and pushing to get that max damage range as much as you can. But that's going to do it, guys. I think that pretty much covers everything I need to. That being said, I am going to cover a lot of these shotguns individually and kind of give them more time than they need. This is sort of a general overview. I know I babble a lot. Ponyhoff, if you're watching, man, I'm sorry. I just drag on and on. But that being said, I want to know now, what do you guys think about this update? Do you think that the VLK Rogue is a little overtuned now? Do you think that any of the other ones still need buffs like I do, like the 410 Ironhide? Please, God, thank you very much. And with all that being said, guys, I will see you in the next video.